Okay, so I think it is it time? It is time. Okay. Uh Stacy, how it goes? Kayla's not here yet. So let me just do 1 minute of just quick introduction for you, Debbie. This particular forum is Saturdays and Sundays for 2 hours from 11 a.m. East Coast time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific Coast time. And the name of it is something we call Collaborology Study Group. It used to be the Global Challenges Collaboration Group. And collaborology was introduced, probably 10, 15 years ago. And the reason Barry was interested in it because we were looking at what makes communication or collaboration or even interaction either better or fail. And we're looking at it from a particularly scientific slash mathematical perspective, but that encompasses a whole range of other things. So Barry was particularly involved, and I think Barry joined us, I think based on Stacy's invitation, probably about 6 years ago. So I've been talking to Barry for about 4 hours minimum every week for about 6 years.
Wow.
And it was pretty intense. And it would go into depth on a number of different things. So anyway, there's a lot more to say, but that is the quick introduction to this group, and I'll let everybody else introduce themselves. So when you introduce yourself, just please for now, just say who you are, just one liner about how you got to know Barry. And I'd really like to know just how long you've known Barry, like just really quickly, because one of these sessions that I've done before is the people who knew Barry, no, the other person, uh, the shortest amount of time, were given the first opportunities to tell their stories. And the people who've known Barry for like 80 years, were the ones to sort of sum up the discussion and bring up some memory points. And that seemed to work okay. So if you'd like to do that, you can do that. Otherwise, just tell us who you are, just really briefly how you know Barry and how long you've known him. And I'd really like to know what time zone or even state or country you're in. So anybody can go.
We start with Debbie because
Okay, my name's Debbie Hoffman, and my dad is Steve Kort, and Barry was my uncle. And I'm sorry, I just miss him, and I feel bad. I'm located in Arizona, and I I just I'm really grateful that you guys are doing this, and I had such nice friends, and I didn't get to see him a lot. I talked to him quite a bit, but I feel that the funeral I really enjoyed. I was really bummed that they cut it off early. I would have liked to have known even more about him. I feel he had such diversity in his friend group, and I'm grateful that you're doing this today. So thank you.
really glad you're here.
Thanks.
Mhm. By the way, I
Thank
have
you.
I haven't met him, but I have been texting a little bit, Robert, since he was on Barry's account. So we had a nice short interchange on that. Uh, I'll actually go next. I'm Sam Hahn. I, like I said, met Barry about 6 years ago and was very fascinated with how his work interacted with mine. I'm in Washington State and used to be in California, so I'm really a left coast kind of person. So that's my quick introduction. Next, Carl, you'd like to go?
Yeah, so as Sam was saying, I met him through the GCC group too. We Yeah, I haven't been as active with it the past couple of years and things. So yeah, that's when I had met Barry initially. Then both Stacy and Eric are part of a open global mind community that Jerry Mikulski has started. So, and Barry participated in that some too. So that's probably the most recent time I saw him. And I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. And so.
Thanks, Carl. Stacy, would you like to?
Sure. I actually met Barry on Facebook, and oh my God, we talked and argued about so many things, and I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours texting, talking on the phone. A lot of people don't know, he was very funny with writing, and I've wanted to do plays, and he's actually written songs for me for plays I've wanted to do, like Stacy at the Bat, and we've had some really big fights too, public fights, but only because we really cared about each other. And I miss him terribly. He had more patience than anyone that I know. And he was probably the most genuine person that I've ever met. I don't think he knew how to lie. And I just can't say enough about how pure his heart was. He was one of a kind.
Thanks, Stace. Carl? Oh, Eric, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, Debbie, I'm also very sorry for your loss. I'm happy that Barry had an online community, several online communities, and even before he met us, he was so connected with the MIT and the MuseNet communities. He really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I'm going to talk a little later, but I have a playlist of videos that I'm going to put in the chat. There's 7 videos, and you'll get a sense of who he was in 2019 and going forward. And there's little gems in there. So it's good to get to know your family. Thank you.
I'll go. Hi, my name's Eric Hoffman. I'm Debbie's husband. And obviously know Barry through her, but most recently we saw Barry at the Boston Museum of Science. What, Debbie, 3 or 4 years ago? And it was a family vacation, and our daughters, Kate and Emily, were able to hang out with Barry in his in his environment. So special time. And yeah, I echo Debbie's sentiments, and he has a great group of friends here and great online community, and we're grateful for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. And nice to meet you here. Heiner?
Yes, I'm Heiner Benking in Berlin. I was in this GCC group with Tammy and Sam, and it was actually Stacy who really focused me on him. And then I followed up. It must be also 6 years or whatever you say. And I had such a broad spectrum of interest, from education to museums, to media, to standards, to the arts, that I miss him also very much and often think about him. And I regret there were so many avenues. We always said, yes, we discuss that later, and we go here and there into detail, and all is not possible anymore. Over.
Okay. Thanks for that. So I think the rest of this session, we can tell Barry stories. So you don't have to tell them all at the same time, or you could if you like. You can do it now, you can do it later. So I was thinking anybody who'd like to go can set the stage, and anybody who prefers to wrap up can say so now, and then we'll put you at the end.
Yeah, I'll put this in now, just like the small world thing. My best friend from college, he had seen something posted that I posted with Barry, and he's like, "Oh, I live next to him. We used to have such amazing conversations." So I'm going to be writing up. I had a lot of conversations with Barry about the ninth intelligence thing. So I did a search for on his blog there, and that's what I'm gonna be writing up, and I'll share it with my friend Len and see what other stories he wants to add to that. Um, and we just work through that group that's set up here. So that'll be my first.
Sam, I'll go at the end. I just want to end with a short song video for him that I think just
Okay.
I feel connected to him with the song and the video.
Okay. Well, then I'll start with a couple of stories and save a couple for later. Um, Barry and I were very different people, but we were also shared a lot of different things. It turns out, surprisingly, that he and I both got our degrees from Stanford. So when we talk about certain things, we have that shared background. We have that shared sense of community and what that university was really trying to teach. But what I didn't know was that he had a systems science or systems modeling or systems thinking perspective through Stanford, which I was not aware of when I went to Stanford. And so, had I known that, I probably would have taken more advantage of it. Um, I think right now, Stanford, at least when I was there, had the program called Values, Technology, and Society. I think that program could leverage Barry's work in mathematics and emotional thinking and learning probably very effectively. So that's something that I think could be followed up on if I get a chance to sort of present some of his ideas to Stanford. One of the things that really leaves me a strong impression with Barry is he had encyclopedic knowledge. Man, we could talk about almost anything, and he would tell me the Latin derivation of it, and he would talk about, how it was constructed in this part of history, and how it really didn't mean this, it really meant something else. And he would break down the words and phrases, and then, point me to another blog article that he'd written about that like 20 or 30 years ago, And that was a repeating pattern with Barry. Not as Barry Kort, but as, molten lava. So that was something that really came through strongly. He admitted, or at least he claimed, he was on the spectrum, that he couldn't read people's faces and emotions, and that other people couldn't read his. I thought that was always fascinating because I think we were able to see that part of each other after about 6 years, quite well, I think. I'm one of the few, I believe, that has gotten very quite upset sometimes to the point where he shouts at me. But those are, far and infrequent, I would say. In 6 years, I think that probably happened. I don't know if this is frequent for you or not, but it happened probably about a half a dozen times. Okay. But that's because we really went at things really in depth. And I got to say, one of the topics that kind of provoked that quite a bit, at least half of the times, were about how systems thinking, mathematics, and logic bumped up against religion and analytic theology. Okay, we talked a lot about analytic theology, and that was definitely a part of our conversations that I will miss because those were quite rich. I'll tell other stories, but I'll leave it my current offering this short for now. Anybody want to go next?
I wrote up something I'd like to read. Okay. I first met Barry on a Zoom call arranged by Stacy, and I never met him in person. This began a multi-year friendship as I learned about Barry's work and connected with him as he joined Zoom calls for several groups. When I first met him, I was in a group called Practical Knowledge Ecology, and he discussed his career at Bell Labs and BBN with several people from that group. And one of the videos will go through that. He told us the story of the dinner where his paper about emotions and learning won, and he was surprised his colleagues could find no prior research on that topic. I looked at his research and was amazed with how he came up with the mathematical model of the phases of learning and unlearning and the associated emotions with each phase. It was a unique way of looking at the mysterious emotions that we all experience as we struggle with learning. So Barry's theory was the birth of the field affective computing, and that is his primary legacy. That field studies how information about a student's emotional states can be used to help them navigate through cycles of emotions that they feel as they learn. In the age of AI, there are new possibilities for improving the technologies for inferring emotional states from sensor data and creating learning companion devices tailored for students. I later became interested in exploring Barry's work with multi-user dungeons, also known as MUDs, to create online educational communities. I had heard about MUDs in the 1990s, but never explored them, and I was surprised to hear of this innovative use for them. Barry told me great stories about how the servers that ran the MUDs were set up on a shoestring budget and how the programming of the objects in the game was done in an object-oriented language that could be learned with some effort. This allowed students to create interactive virtual worlds that other people could explore together while online. And I could demonstrate later if we have some time. I could show you what they look like. There are great stories about how students improved their writing and spelling skills because they were motivated to build the virtual world that they wanted. Barry also made sure that the environment was safe and friendly for students and that online codes of conduct and governance were enforced by the people in the community. So Barry laid the groundwork for a real learning commons that connected people across the country. We cannot underestimate the value these connections had in the lives of the people who experienced that community. The server that ran the MUD eventually wound up in Barry's apartment, where he faithfully kept it running for over 30 years. And it's still running, I just checked. I became interested in the technology behind the MUD, and Barry set up an account for me so I could explore it and learn how to program objects in it. As I explored this fascinating artifact of the 1990s, I realized that it needed to be preserved for future generations. I was familiar with similar preservation efforts by the Internet Archive to keep old software running in emulators so people can run the old software from their web browsers. So I worked with Barry to recreate the Unix System 5 server for the MUD in an emulator named QEMU. Barry was able to provide me with the code and data for the system and explain how to run it. Surprisingly, I was able to install it in the emulator and get it to run. I then had Barry create one account for each of the access levels in the system, and I was able to set up the disk images and instructions for anyone who wants to research the system and explore this virtual world. So you can now go to archive.org and do an advanced search for creator Barry Kort, and you will find one result named Micromuse QEMU Solaris image. The image cannot be run from the web browser, but instructions are provided for anyone who wants to set up the QEMU emulator on their machine to run the software. So this is an entirely text-based system. There's no graphics or videos, so kids had to use their imagination as they read the descriptions of the places in the virtual world. And this allowed over 50,000 objects to be stored in a database of only 10 megabytes. I think we can learn a lot from what was done in that unique educational community to help today's kids recapture some of the value of reading, imagination, and creativity. Barry spent many years as a volunteer at the Boston Museum of Science. He had a unique approach that used the Socratic method to encourage children of all ages to explore a room of puzzles. There is something special about being in a room where you can play with fun objects that challenge you to think and having a knowledgeable adult there to help you when you get stuck. This shows how Barry valued his community and gave back to it as best he could. After leaving the Science Museum, he continued his volunteer work in the Fix-It shop, where he helped repair broken items and helped the Toastmasters run their Zoom meetings during the pandemic. These personal connections meant a lot to the people who knew him. Barry was open about his diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. That term is no longer used. It's now recognized as part of the autism spectrum. I was familiar with its characteristics from a friend whose son was diagnosed with it. It is a challenge for many people on the spectrum to navigate our world due to overstimulation and sensitivities. Barry applied his unique mind to create a meaningful life of loving personal connections. He actually created a virtual office for himself in the mud and a special room called the Soul Chamber where he wrote down his life goals. And I'm just going to read a few of them now. So he has a vision statement. We envision a wholesome world in which everyone can enjoy the fruits of world peace, prosperity, lifelong learning, spiritual growth, physical health, and emotional well-being, satisfying roles and careers, and meaningful participation in the joy of creative living. So I just love the way he writes, how he just gets everything into just specific words. And his mission statement to play a leadership role in architecting and engineering the advance of civilization through creative innovation, life affirming applications of technology. And that's important, the words life affirming, because he worked at MITRE and they had Department of Defense contracts, and he insisted, I don't want to work on anything that's not life affirming. The wise and responsible use of scientific knowledge to play a nurturing role in educating and empowering people to realize their full potential to participate cooperatively, creatively, innovatively, effectively, productively, and rewardingly in achieving the common goals embodied in the vision statement. And one of his favorite puns was world peace as world peas. You know, like you take a fork and you whirl your peas. So I also asked ChatGPT to identify a few nuggets of wisdom that Barry shared with us over the years, and I'm just going to read a few of them. Okay. The value of accuracy and trust. As somebody that wants to be trusted, it's very important for me to try and be accurate. Reflection on his career legacy in terms of the final piece of technical work in my career. This is my magnum opus, and that's his research on emotions and learning. Accessible narrative in science. If you have an audience that doesn't wrap their brain around the math, the narrative is digestible. I was impressed by Barry's math skills and his ability to apply calculus to emotions. That's very unique. On communication and metaphors, using words metaphorically is so bloody confusing. A lot of your audience will think you're using the word literally. And that's very important because a lot of our interactions are online and things get misinterpreted these days. And scientific discourse versus power play. In science, you should be able to eventually resolve it. But if someone just pulls out a card and says, I'm the CEO, that's not a discussion. So that meant a lot to Barry, that the scientific method is followed, that people don't just arbitrarily assert power. So we will miss Barry's company as we remember what he has given us and we take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I want to welcome Kayla, who has joined us while Eric was reading. Hey, Kayla, we did short introductions, and then now we're sharing stories about Barry in no particular order. Who would like to go next?
Okay, hello everybody.
Kayla is in Southern California, and I'm not sure when you met Barry, but it was probably sometime in the last 4 or 5 years.
And
Yes.
Kayla, Debbie is Barry's niece and Eric is her husband.
Oh, okay. Then I should introduce myself. So, yes, my name is Kayla, and I live in Southern California. I've been going to these GCC meetings since the pandemic. So, like 2020 is when I discovered it. And I think Barry came about a year later. And yeah, he's been such a joy to have. And his passing was a shock, and we're really going to miss him. We already feel, the weight of his absence. So I just wanted to say hi to everybody.
So I jump in next. I was really pleased by his personal attention, and he was a world of service for me. So when, for example, my Linux machine broke down, he really remotely helped me to get going. And he was so knowledgeable from Bell to what I remember most was our first discussions on Wikipedia, because he was speaking about a community social contract and to be a peacemaker and really find a modus vivendi between participants, which are very much often ego or self-driven, or are just an in-group with their bias and they are not aware of it. So I was also in some situations with Wikipedia. I was there when Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger clashed. And so the whole Wikipedia movement was cut into half. And Larry was this technical person. I mean, the quality like Sam or Eric, and not the political or whatever marketing talkative guy. And Barry really immediately got the situation that we have to be more encyclopedists and we have to look into the group dynamics. So I would like to say, as Sam just said, he was an encyclopedist. No, I think he was much more, because emotions and senses and all this do not really fit into an encyclopedia, but so they are very important, like his fairy tales and stories of God meeting a girl. I mean, I cannot recite it now, I did not prepare, but his experience to really try to go to the groupthink and make sure that our knowledge is repeatable and we can trust it and not have Terminator gangs doing deletion and not looking for inclusion have a chance. So anyway, all these fights, I think it's not over, but he was really looking into respect and expertise and authenticity, and maybe also expert authority. But all this together, his ability to span various cultural zones and languages and going into the etymology helped a lot in the group discussions. And I think he is really a a generalist and a specialist. He has this T personality qualities to really shift between the sectors and disciplines. And I think we should really look what he's been doing with the young people in exploring in museums this hands-on and honoring and taking them in for real and not being in a master slave teacher pupil situation. So this is all I have at the moment. Thank you for doing this event.
Thank you, Heiner.
I'd like to share something because I think Debbie would appreciate it. So I laughed, Debbie, when your dad was mentioning how when he wanted Barry to help him with his homework, he just wanted the answer. And I bring this up because when Barry got mad at me, it was because he wanted to take me on this long route to getting the answer. And I didn't want to do that. I actually said, no, I do want you to spoon feed me because I already felt like I had the answer. I just wanted him to give me the research to prove what I thought I already knew to satisfy all these other people in the room here. So we would play back and forth that way. But what people are saying about him being an encyclopedia, I knew that I could say something and he could come up with the proof for it. So my point was, well, why do I have to go look for it then? I know you have it. Just give it to me. And I was watching a recording that I had of just me and him where we were playing with ChatGPT, and it was so heartwarming to watch because we were really having fun with it. And I just wanted to share that with you to bring the human piece back into this because he really, like, I related to like that little boy in him that wasn't always so obvious.
It's funny that you mentioned that about his little boy aspect because, sorry, I'm so emotional. I don't know why. He was the younger brother of my dad, and even though they were only a year apart, for some reason he had such a boyish quality about him. He was always so curious and always, he just had a real, I don't know, to me anyway, he always had a real childlike way about him. And even though he was 80, it was like, I don't know, he just always seemed so young to me. So it was really surprising when he passed away because I still see him as a really young person in my head. And I'm sorry, I just miss him. Um, it's just hearing all these stories and um I don't know, they're all moving. Like everybody really misses him for different things. And he had such an impact, it seems like, on people. And my memories are different than your memories for sure. And I love hearing all these different things about him. And um, he was one of the first people who really introduced me to computers. He got me on MuseNet back it was like in the 90s. And I was young. I was just a kid still. And that was really what got me to like computers and get into them in the first place. And it was so long before social media um, that I don't know any of us could have seen what was coming on social media, but I feel like he was such an important part of social media in those early days before it really was a thing. So it's kind of neat to see. Um, my other memories with him are the puzzles, all the puzzles. And he would carry a bag of puzzles. He would come and visit us, and he would bring a bag of puzzles. And then when I had kids, he would bring the puzzles. And my oldest daughter has the most memories with him because she is extremely intellectual, just like he is. And oh my gosh, him and her would just sit there, the two of them doing these, she would do the puzzles and he would challenge her, and she appreciated so much of that intellect because she was the same kind of person. And it was just I don't know, just so much of it. And then the other interesting thing I find is my youngest daughter is on the spectrum for autism, and I didn't know that about him. I knew he had mentioned Asperger's in the past, and I didn't really connect that my daughter has a lot of those same traits until now. And she's actually in the middle right now of getting officially diagnosed, so that we can get her some accommodations made at school to help with it. Um, but I really wish I would have spoken to him more about that. And if anybody has any more information on that, I would love to have more conversation about that. Um, the other thing I wanted to touch on is you had mentioned that he has a community still up and running on a server. So we are actually planning to go to Boston, me and my family. And by family, I mean my brother and my dad and my husband. And we have the responsibility of cleaning out his house. And he has hundreds of computers in his home. And in his basement, there's something that looks like a server, like a full-blown server, something you would see in an office building. And we're really nervous about proceeding with getting rid of anything and destroying any work unintentionally, or any, in this case, it sounds like a community that he built. Um, and I'm not sure how we should approach that. If anybody here has any advice, or anybody in Boston that, we could reach out to maybe get some assistance before we unplug everything. And if anybody would want any of that equipment, we would want to hear from you now, obviously, so we could get arrangements made. I would hate to see all his work just disappear. We're assuming, or we were assuming, that almost all of it was in the cloud. But before the cloud came along, everything was still on computers, and I don't want to lose anything that might be there. And we're not as technically inclined as Barry. So I would ask if anybody had advice on that. I would want to know. We're going to be there from September 14th through the 18th.
Okay, I could let you know that Barry described that Micromuse server as a ghost town, like maybe a few people here and there would log on to it. And the work that I did to preserve it on the Internet Archive, that allows anyone who wants to download it and play with it. It just won't be a connected community like it is now. And there are other, okay, actually, his work was incorporated by another person into a muse that is still online. So you're not losing any of his work if you take
Okay.
that server offline. I don't know if there are other things like a website that may run on some of those servers. So you may just want to have somebody from MIT take a look at what he has and evaluate it. Yeah, any of the colleges in that area might be able to provide someone just to evaluate it. But I mean, we can't expect things to live forever and things come offline all the time. But people who knew Barry, he was on a Facebook community called Musers Unite, and I posted the notice of his passing there, so people are aware. And there was some discussion about, okay, can someone else host it? But practically, it's very hard to know what these people are offering. Like, see, so I feel like the way I've preserved it, people can learn about it, play with it, get a sense for it. That is enough. So hope
If
that
if anybody comes across in the coming months somebody who is maybe local to Boston, I would like to share my email address so you could reach out to me if if you do come across somebody in the region.
Debbie,
Yeah,
could you reach out to his friend Rosalind? That
yeah,
would
Yeah.
she would be the one to reach out to.
okay. Yeah, I was hoping to actually get together with her while we're there and have dinner and talk to her. So I'll reach out to her now. Um, is she very involved though in some of these online communities that he was involved with? Like,
She
I'm sorry, in our community, we personally don't know her. We know of her work. She's in a separate, I tried to reach out to her. I wasn't able to, but she would be the right person. She's at MIT.
Mhm.
She,
right.
She was at the memorial service, so I think she definitely is very familiar with what Barry's done. I was going to add two more quick points. One is, at the very least, offer some of those resources to the Computer History Museum, which is in California. They may or may not follow up on it, but at least they would have people that could come and do forensic network analysis and software analysis, and they could do essentially what Eric did, which was to preserve or recreate or rehost some of his software and some of his data. And at least they can say yes or no. And then the other I was going to suggest was Rosalind, because she has the resources of MIT at her disposal, and he was very much connected to that. I would say those two are probably the best avenues, MIT and then Rosalind, but give Computer History Museum a chance to get involved.
and we have somebody else that came. Terry, welcome. I'm not.
Yes, sorry for late joining, and I actually have an unavoidable appointment I have to run to here in a couple of minutes. But my connection with Barry goes way back to grad school at Stanford. He and I were roommates for 2 of the 3 years that he spent there, and he was the best man at my wedding. He was just an incredible friend. When I heard somebody, Debbie, I guess, mention that he deemed himself to be on the spectrum, maybe it shows my lack of perception, but he was one of the most fully functional people that I ever knew. And so he and I kind of drifted apart, he to the East Coast and me to the far reaches of Canada for my academic career. But we kept in touch with the occasional social media and email, and we had so many common interests from decision analysis to game theory, political interests. Like every night in the volatile late 60s, early 70s, we sat down and watched KQED in San Francisco, the PBS News. Barry was quite a character. There's so many stories I could tell. I helped him draft his objection to his draft call from the Omaha, in the middle of the Vietnam War. He was, violently against that. And so we spent hours and hours making his case as a conscientious objector, which he won, to battling one of the funnier stories I have, and I'll just close with this, is he got tired of being continually harassed by online mailings like from Columbia Records and so on. They kept saying, please don't send me this garbage mail. Finally, they sent him at one point already a postal credit solicitation. So he grabbed that, took a brick. He found a brick out behind our apartment building, attached the letter to it. Of course, they had to pay the postage because it was a paid postage return, and mailed this brick back to Columbia Records. So anyway, he was that kind of a guy. But we did all sorts of things, from going to football games to going into the Sierras hiking and so on. So I just and as I say, he then was the best man at my wedding. He then came to visit in Canada, and just after he graduated from Stanford, and I really wish I'd been able to have more contact with him over the years, but I know he was very happy in the Boston area, and I'm glad to see he's got so many friends that have such great memories of him. So, as I say, I apologize for the brevity of my appearance here on this, but I just had to sort of register from away in his past what a great character I thought he was.
Thank you.
That was a great story. Thank you very much.
Well,
How do I get in touch with you if I wanted to talk to anybody here again? What's the best
Well,
way?
let me. Is there some place that I could send my email and other contacts to there that's sort of serving as a Barry Kort kind of a
Put it in
central?
the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the chat.
if
Okay.
you
Okay.
if you're on
Okay.
Facebook, Anne
Yeah,
Marie,
I'm on Facebook.
yeah,
Yeah.
some of you are not on Facebook, but those who are on Facebook, Anne Marie has set up a group of friends,
Okay.
so that's
I will join that. I did see that, so I will join that, and I'll give you my information there. Okay.
and if you
As
want
I
to
say, I've
participate
got
in this chat,
all sorts of remembrances and so on of 3 years of living with Barry.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for setting this up and my opportunity, belatedly, I'd have to say, to touch base with somebody that was a significant part of my history. So thank you.
Well, nice
Thank
to meet you,
you.
Terry.
Yeah. Bye bye. Yeah.
Just want to let you know that all of these stories, this entire session is being recorded. There is a transcript. The recording will be shared onto Barry's Facebook profile page. I'm not going to necessarily
Good.
share the transcript because people are putting emails and other things in there. But if you like it, we can make it available for you to get an email or just link to it. And
Sure.
one of the really useful things, by the way, I wanted to mention is that just recently, in the last year or two, we've been able to get AI like ChatGPT and other LLMs to look at some of these videos. And there's a wealth of them. As you can tell, there's 7 years. Actually, this goes way back to before 6 years. It goes back now to 2017. So there's like 8 years of these videos. So anyway, you can pick and choose and let these AIs give you focus on what we have been talking about and exploring with Barry. I think that's an experiment that I'm going to conduct. That Eric's already conducted it. Other friends here in GCC have already done so, but we now have those tools that can give us deeper insights into Barry. So the last trivia question I would like to ask you, Terry, is what dorm were you in Stanford since you shared a dorm with him?
Well, we didn't share a dorm. It was a grad school, so we had an apartment in Mountain View, just actually what is now a couple of blocks away from the Google campus. But we were there for a year. Then Barry went back to Homedale. We actually met at Homedale at Bell Labs because I had worked there in the summer after my first year at Stanford. We met and decided to be roommates in 1968, and then he completed his master's, went back to Bell for a year, and then came back to for the PhD program, and so we were roommates again at that time. So
Okay.
so that was where we shared life, and again, so many stories about what an incredibly organized guy he was, and he'd organize our sandwich making for the whole week on Sunday night, and I say it could go on and on and on about the stories of living with Barry, but just a great roommate and a great friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So bye for now, and I will send that contact information.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.
And is this your brother, Debbie, that just showed?
Yes. Yeah, he must be driving somewhere.
We're going to grocery. We got to drive kids around because that's all I do.
Well, welcome. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bob, after we hang up, I'll fill you in a little bit on some suggestions I had with some of Barry's computer stuff
Okay.
that we can consider doing or should consider doing.
Okay.
Well, let me drop a few other notes here. I'm actually curious. One of Barry's favorite stories, because he cared about justice so much, was his tiff with Jimmy Wales at the Wikimedia Foundation, and how he felt that, just stating the truth got him kicked out of Wikipedia.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about Barry.
Yes. Online.
You could mute him, Sam.
Okay. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
I actually like it when people are
Yeah.
on audio. Anyway, I was talking about how he would like to tell this story about how this resource that was supposed to be open and shared freely and collaboratively created
I
was
think
kind of very unfair in its application of his notion of justice.
okay.
That was one of the cornerstones of getting to know Barry, from my perspective. So that's one. The other was, as people have mentioned, he was very technical. He loved tinkering with things, especially old things, especially things that didn't work. So obviously his time at the Fix-It shop was a story that he would talk about quite a bit. And to further that, I introduced him to a very dear friend of mine named Sam Chan, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And Sam got so supportive of
Volume down.
what he was doing. And he knew
Put the
that
volume down for now.
Yeah,
Barry was trying to help people with getting things to
Okay.
work. So Sam Chan had
Your shoes up.
Yeah, I will. Okay, just a minute.
Excuse me. Terry, can you mute, please?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so anyway, literally, Sam Chan has millions of dollars of old equipment, millions, maybe even more than that. Okay, so selectively, he would send certain pieces of hardware to Barry so that Barry could get them to work again. I remember he sent Barry a 3D HP scanner. And Barry spent quite a bit of time with that. He couldn't eventually get it to work because it used a very old version of Windows 7 or something like that. But anyway, that was the kind of thing that we would help Barry um, learn about and help people with. I also want to mention Sam because Sam actually was the one who paid for Barry's ChatGPT subscription. When Barry said, hey, he's retired, he has no way to investigate all of that. So for quite a long time, probably for over a year, Sam supported Barry's curiosity in ChatGPT, and Barry was able to do quite a bit of interaction using his past writings and his theory of emotions and learning and interact with ChatGPT to really get ChatGPT to give him more context and present that more, let's say, accessibly to other people. So I thought that was actually quite a good thing, and that was a great thing to have actually set up that kind of friendship for Barry. One of the things I wanted to say about the way mathematical thinking works is Barry and I could say things like, well, what happens at zero? Or what happens at one? Or what happens at infinity? Or what is a kernel space? And how does the kernel space expand into other dimensions? And what about the excluded middle if you're talking logic? And he would know exactly what we were talking about. That's rare in society, okay? And people who've not grown up with mathematics don't understand that and unfortunately tune out. But I could engage in those conversations with Barry and know that he wasn't tuning out, he was leaning in when we would talk about topics like that. So that's one of the reasons I really, really wanted to have those conversations and did so for 6 years. One of the extensions of his interest in analytic theology was how does science butt up with religion and how did that then get put into context of history? And his word, I don't know if it's his word or somebody else's, but he introduced me to it, was theomethy, the mathematics of religious thought or the mathematics of theology. And that was something that we didn't get enough time to explore. But I remember that was one of the things that he and I had on a very long list of future topics to talk about. I've got more, but I'll stop for now. We'll let other people speak and tell more stories.
There were two other special things about Barry. One is that he really didn't take things personally, which is kind of surprising because most of us do that at least to some small degree. He really didn't. But the other thing, which I don't think I'd be surprised if any of you knew this, but Barry told me that he could not cry from sadness. He was able to cry, but only like for joyous reasons. All of his sadness came out from his parodies. So anytime he was sad, that's when he wrote his parodies, and that's how the sadness came out. And at first, I didn't believe him. At first, I thought he was just like avoiding the sadness. But the more I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe it's possible that he was removing all of those toxic energies from his body by putting it into the written word. But I just thought it's worth mentioning because he was a truly unique person.
Stacy, where are these parodies that you're talking about?
Well, Eric could probably point you in the direction of them. I have a link to some of them on MuseNet, right? Is MuseNet?
Okay,
I
well,
can go through my, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, MuseNet is the MUD system, but he had a whole bunch of blogs and other websites. So I know that I have saved things over the years, but I'd have to find the links. But he did a lot of writing. I know he has a WordPress blog, which and Carl has found something that he's going to be using. So it's out there, and I'm sure that it's backed up on the archive.org over the years as well. I mean, that's a tricky problem, the permanence of writings and yeah, keeping things alive. One thing I wanted to comment about was how Barry used his faith, his Jewish faith, as, and connected it to mathematics and to politics in a very unique way. The idea of a social covenant and how that really resonated with me when he told me these ideas that if you go beyond the strict rules of the law, there are higher levels of moral reasoning. And he gave the example like of Dostoevsky's writings of Crime and Punishment and the Brothers Karamazov, that's a legal system, and the books show how it fails. And there are two higher levels, and he hopes that society can evolve beyond the rule-based reasoning to model-based reasoning and social contracts and covenants. So just a very special thing about him. Thanks.
I'll look for what I have, Debbie, and I will send you because I'll just go through my messages.
Yeah, I just wrote a quick little one-liner. If you look for Molten Lava, Multon, that's the name under which he wrote, and that's very unique. I think you'll be able to find it quite easily. Carl?
Yeah, actually, the link I posted is search on that site for the Ninth Intelligence, but there's a search box up in the upper left-hand corner when you follow that, and you can search for any topic you want on that site. Yeah, I mean, this has been a wonderful session here. Yeah, there's like all the conversations. So it was like, that I wanted to have with him and everything, but I'll have to do it through his writing and stuff. But yeah, it's that's our legacy that we have. And I also posted a link with the deep connection with the work I've been doing was there was a whole faster community out of the National IT Research and Development thing. It's basically trying to coordinate all government research and stuff. And Vint Cerf, the architect of the internet, this digital vellum is one of his passions and stuff about how do we keep the content from before. And there was a guy at Carnegie Mellon that it was like a million. They were trying to get hardware. Ran a million times slower than any of our current stuff. So I mean, there's some really complex kind of issues out there. But I'm working on my dissertation and this kind of doing my own autobiography, memoirs of my government career and everything is actually part of that. So that's a piece that I'll be looking at. So I'll definitely accelerate some of the things and share that with you, Debbie.
And Debbie, both Stacy and I have put our emails in the chat transcript. I'll certainly send it to you if you like, and then you can share it further if you choose to. The
Thank
video
you.
I'll share on Barry's wall. Other stories, because I've got just a few more points, and then we'll have Stacy play her video.
I can share a story. Um, well, just to give you a context, I'm probably one of the youngest in the GCC group, and I'm probably one of the ones with the least amount of education. So everybody by nature kind of intimidates me, but Barry intimidated me the most. He just was, when you were saying it was such a shock that he passed, I completely agree because not only was he childlike, but he was very sharp, and I have a dad who is about his age, and my dad health-wise was kind of going downhill, but it just completely shocked me when Barry had passed, because I was like, oh yeah, this man's gonna live till he's like 100. His brain is there and everything. I just did not see him, this coming. So anyways, so because Barry intimidated me, the first couple of years, whenever he was in session, I wouldn't speak so much. Also, he had a tendency to talk a lot. I don't know if he does this in his personal life, but it just kind of took me aback. Not only did he talk a lot, but he had a lot of really good things to say. So it was hard for me to process a lot of the things he said because they were very academically inclined. But over the years, I realized that he just really wanted to contribute his knowledge and his findings to everybody. And he was so enthusiastic about it too. He was probably one of the first that would come on session right at 8 o'clock, whereas I would come at 8:30, maybe 9, 8:45. And he would stay the whole time. A couple of times he and I, just kind of riffed off together. So there weren't very many things that we had in common. He always seemed to just like want to be there for me. And I really appreciated that about him. One thing that I wanted to say that I really loved is he had a term, because okay, I'll back up. I'm an Ori Tahiti dancer. I used to dance for a very, very long time, and I had taught as well. And so a lot of the things that I had brought to the table had to do with dance. So I'd have analogies about that. And then he would raise his hand. Oops, Alexa, stop the timer. He would raise his hand and he would say like, oh yeah, I know about like parodies or something, but I'm terrible at dancing. And he often said that I had what was called like body. I don't know, I don't remember the exact term. It sounds like Trixocorpia. But every time I would pop on screen, he's like, there's my favorite dancer. There's my favorite Trixocorpia. And so it just made me feel so good. Like somebody of his caliber would say that about me when, I felt like at some times I didn't belong in that space. And the one last thing that I will say about Barry is, as a mom, I've got 2 kids. they're both teenagers. I would often talk about my struggles with education and how frustrating it is. And Barry would say, well, it's not your kids' fault if they're not learning anything. It's the teachers. It's the people who aren't, engaging the kids. It's their fault. So I'm all like, yeah, the guy is on our side. But anyway, just wanted to share those bits. It's lovely to see, some of Barry's friends and relatives on here. Again, just, I was crying alongside with you. Okay.
Thank you, Kayla. Anyone else before I give my last few little stories? And then Stacy plays her video.
I just want to thank everybody one more time for being here. We didn't know how big his community in Boston was. We didn't have any idea how big it was online. We knew it was going to be pretty sizable. In case you were curious, I did find out that the video of his funeral that was live streamed had 146 viewers on the day of his funeral. And that's pretty impressive. We shall be so lucky to have so many people who care about us. So just really, really touched, really moved, and so grateful to you all and to everybody who, showed up for him and continued to miss him. So thank you. And thank you for sharing everything that you're sharing with me.
Just a couple more memories from me, and then Stacy. Another one of our favorite topics, and Stacy and Eric have alluded to it, is the topic of rules and how rules led to chaos. That was quite a rich topic that Barry and I got to engage on for at least half of the conversations we had, literally for those 6 years. It was so rich. And chaos is in there, protocols is in there, mathematics is in there, politics is in there, anger is in there, stupidity is in there, all of it. Okay. And one of the things that I really, really enjoyed with Barry was talking about the mathematics of ethics. So much has been made of, well, the religious people say, well, if you don't have religion, where do your morals come from? Barry and I both had a very solid understanding of how understanding the universe, understanding the planet, understanding people could give you a mathematics of ethics if you really looked at that information and that history. And that's a very solid foundation for us to actually build hopefully our future society if we're given the chance to do so. So that's one thing that I miss with Barry is to have those kind of conversations. The other thing I wanted to mention, and other people have done it obliquely, is Barry described himself almost always as vexed and perplexed. And I thought, I share the perplexed part, but let's try to do less of the vexed part. But he and I would enjoy that particular term, and that's how he would introduce himself. Another one was, if you can't give people a logical, scientific, model-based foundation of something, what would Barry say? And everybody all together, tell a story, right? He loves saying, tell stories. And that's one of the reasons why he wrote so many and wrote them into parodies and into songs. I really wish, by the way, I could hear Barry sing some of his songs, but he always said he was a bad singer.
He said he couldn't sing.
So we never did any of that. And then I have to say, sadly, that in the last few weeks prior to July, we had seen him nodding off more frequently during these sessions. We could wake him up, if we said, Barry, are you there? Yeah, he would respond. But, obviously in the early years, that didn't happen as much. And we didn't know how to take it, but, some of us did comment on that, and it was noticeable. I also wanted to tell you, Debbie, and the rest of your family, that the 6 years of videos that we have had on these weekends are available on YouTube playlists. And if you like, send me a request. Obviously, nobody's going to watch all of that, but you now have AIs that can tell you when did Barry talk about XYZ subject. And they can then tell you which video he was actually talking about it. And these AIs are going to get smarter, so they'll get more and more specific. So there are literally thousands of hours of these conversations. So um, if you want to, hear it from the man himself, it is possible through some of these topics because we have very far-ranging conversations over the years. Um, I'll leave one last note to my close, okay? And Stacy, would you like to play your video at this point?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just hope Barry knew how loved he was. Um, yeah, I believe he's with us now. So, yeah, this video, I think I know it speaks for me, but I think it speaks for him too. It was more than anything, he really wanted his work to benefit the world. And I feel like it's on us to do whatever we can in whatever way to see that that happens. So let's see if I can share this properly. So how do I do this? Why is my share button is not here all of a sudden? Why is that?
Phone or PC?
Wait, it was here before. Raised hand. Everything's here. Oh, share. Wait a minute. Share.
Should be green.
No, it's actually blue, but okay.
Stacey, do you
Thank.
want to wrap up that part of it?
No, I wasn't able to see any video. I hope you guys were able to see the video. You weren't either? None of you were.
We heard
Did
it,
Oh,
you
but we didn't.
did
But
you
we
hear the
didn't.
music?
yeah, but it totally lost it. I'm sorry that you had to sit. Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning, if you couldn't see the video,
Okay, the link is in the chat for anyone who wants to watch it later.
And by the way, for the record, thanks for doing that. But if we include this in the video in this session as is, we're gonna get flagged for copyright and we'll be taken down. So I will have
can
to
you
edit. I'll have to edit
cut
that
it out?
out.
Yeah,
And
you might as well anyway, because it really lost it all. It
otherwise,
was,
I won't be able to share this otherwise.
if
Yeah.
just so
Um,
you know, had you been able to see the video, it was all the planets and the stars, and it just reminded me, I had so many conversations with Barry about other universes, and I don't know, just reminded me of him. And of course, I always talk to him about Barbara Streisand. So that was anyway. But thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it will work if you're on the Chrome browser with YouTube and stuff, but it didn't look like it got to the Earth until like 30 seconds in.
Yeah, I am in Chrome, but there was probably some
Yeah,
lag or delay. All right.
and it is a full moon tonight, so.
Wow.
Anyone else with any last thoughts, stories, memories? Okay, then I'll wrap up and say thank you all. We're going to share this. And as has been mentioned, some knew, some didn't, but Barry himself proclaimed he was on the spectrum. But we talked about Barry's humanity. And one thing I wanted to tell you, which I haven't told anyone else, is I lost my job a year ago. And when I just mentioned it casually here in conversation, Barry was the first to contact me one-on-one and say, "Can I help you?" So Barry was a very kind man. He was a good friend. I'll miss him. We'll all miss him. Thank you for all these memories and stories.
Thank you.